friends. It is Mel Adair here with the Friendship Revolution, and today I am joined by a special guest, Jennifer Bowden. And Jennifer has this amazing site, and it's zesthealthyeating.com. And Jennifer and I actually met at a conference where we were both there learning some business tactics, and ended up in a group the very first night we were there, and there was just a great connection. And so this was 2 years ago, and we've kept in touch and have been able to follow each other's journeys. And I love Jennifer's message because it's talking about healthy eating choices, and not just making better healthy eating choices, but it's so much more beyond that and beyond diet. So at this point, Jennifer, I would love for you to share with our friends out here who you are, your passion behind your message, and how you frame this healthy eating in general for your audiences.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. It's great to connect with you and actually see you, because we're normally messaging. And so, yeah. Well, I guess to explain a little bit around the passion for that, for what I do in the healthy eating, is my approach is thinking that healthy eating is about more than just eating healthy food. So it's actually about having a healthy relationship with food as well. Because what I realized, so my background, I retrained as a nutritionist when I was in my late 20s. So not my first career, but decided to go into it because I was really passionate about nutrition. So there were a lot of rules about food and, and lose weight and those kind of things. And what I realized as working with clients and people was that those rules were ending up with people feeling really uncomfortable about their relationship with food. So they'd feel bad if they ate chocolate because chocolate was bad, and good if they ate a salad. But it ended up with just sort of really dysfunctional relationships with eating. And in a way, for myself, I did too. And I thought there's got to be more to it than this. And that's when I discovered non-diet approach to healthy eating, or in a framework that's called intuitive eating, which sounds really woo-woo, but it isn't woo-woo. It's a science-based framework for teaching people how to eat in a healthy way. And that's all about trusting your body and having a healthy relationship with food. So when I discovered that, it was like a light bulb went off for me. I was like, this is it. This is the missing link. We've been so focused on trying to make the most nutritious, healthy food choices you can at every meal, and we've forgotten that food's actually also meant to be enjoyed, and that you're allowed to have personal opinions on which foods you like. So you don't have to follow a diet that says you must have a kale salad for lunch, and you're like, oh, I can't stand kale, I don't want to eat that. So that really changed my approach to how I work with clients, because I wanted people to actually enjoy eating. I wanted it to be satisfying. I wanted it to be fun as well as nourishing your body. Because what I learned, and interestingly, it wasn't something I learned at university studying, but learned afterwards, is that when we look at health, we need to be aware that health is about more than your physical well-being. It's also about your emotional well-being, your spiritual well-being, your environmental well-being. So when you're in lockdown, we would have, all of us, noticed that, being confined in one area, how that might affect you, especially if you're in a smaller space. It might have been really uncomfortable and you wanted to get out. There's also like your intellectual well-being. So when we're in a job that doesn't inspire us and we're bored, that can really affect your whole life. And so all of that is your physical well-being. And your overall well-being. But what I realized was that with nutrition and healthy eating, a lot of us are just focusing on that physical side and thinking about diet and exercise. But if you're following a diet that makes you feel miserable because you don't get to eat the foods you enjoy, then that's impacting your emotional well-being. If you're eating a diet that has rules about when and what you're allowed to eat, and that now impacts your social well-being, because now you can't go out to a shared meal with friends, so you feel unhappy about that. You start seeing how the choices you make with your eating can impact. Yes, you might be eating more nutritious foods, but maybe your overall well-being is worse off because you're actually impacting yourself negatively in an emotional way, a social way, or maybe you've got cultural traditions within your family for foods you eat, and now you're saying diet doesn't allow that, and now family get-togethers are impacted. So yeah, for me, learning this whole bigger, wider picture to healthy eating was a real light bulb moment. And I think I really want to share that message with people, to think about food in a wider perspective. It's not just about nutrients, it's about traditions, cultures, joy, taste, sharing, connection, and we need to, yes, nourish our bodies, but also like nourish your soul, if that makes sense.
Yes, thank you. That was a great overview in general, and you hit a little bit on some of the emotion behind that, and we hear a lot about emotional eating. So I'm just pulling that little subject out to so that we can kind of tease that out a little bit here in our conversation. How many people do you, based on your research or what you have found to be true in your groups and in your memberships, how many people, what percentage of people struggle with emotional eating?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think just to address one thing, in terms of emotional eating, what proportion of people do emotional eating? I would say 100%. 100% of people are emotional eaters, because here's the interesting thing. There's a whole spectrum of emotional eating. So at one end, there is food that we eat for joy. We eat some food because it brings us joy. So often sharing a piece of cake for a birthday for your child or a family member, you may not have specifically been thinking, I really feel like eating a piece of cake at the moment, but you get joy from that because you're celebrating the birthday and you're eating the cake with the specific purpose of sort of that being a joyful and a celebratory thing. In effect, that's a form of emotional eating. And then you go right to the other end of the spectrum, where we more think about emotional eating being those negative emotions. So when you're angry, you're frustrated, you're sad, you're bored, and we can eat for those emotional reasons too. And I think we eat for emotional reasons, for those negative emotions, for a very good reason, and that's because it works. So it does distract us, and it does release chemicals within our body that numb those feelings to a certain degree. And that's not a bad thing. The thing is, if it's the only tool in your toolbox that you've got to deal with those negative emotions, so you're always relying on food to help you with those negative emotions, then it becomes an issue. And then that's what I go through with clients, and you learn to develop other tools. And sometimes for a lot of people, it's simply they don't even recognize maybe at first what even emotion it is, why they're eating. And they don't even realize that they are emotional eating. So we go through stages like 1, you need to learn to recognize what physical hunger feels like. So you're not sitting there going, what am I eating? Am I emotional eating, or am I actually hungry? Because, sometimes you might eat because you're frustrated and you're feeling irritable. And then other times you're actually irritable because you're hungry. When people talk about angry, you're angry because you're hungry. So you need to be able to tease out the difference between when is this anger or irritability a separate emotion, or when is it actually a symptom of hunger? And once you can understand the difference between physical hunger and emotional hunger, and then you need to learn how to identify what is the emotions, and just asking yourself, what am I actually feeling, and get to the bottom of it, and learn how to deal with that emotion with the tool. I had some great training from a psychologist on this, and she just kept talking about just learning to add more tools to your toolbox, emotional toolbox. You've got different ways to cope with things. And at the end of the day, it's not the end of the world if sometimes you eat for emotional reasons. It's not a big deal. The problem is if you're doing it all of the time and you don't have any other coping tools, then it's something that you probably want to dig into and sort out.
Okay, so since you've mentioned coping tools, are there top 2 coping tools that you would suggest for anybody in general when it comes to being able to really think through what it is that you're eating and why? What would be 2 coping tools?
Well, I think a lot of the time what well, what I see is that I have a lot of clients who are women, and what I see with them is that often maybe their self-care isn't great. So they're putting themselves at the bottom of a pile below everybody else, behind their husband, behind their children, behind work, behind all the things they need to do, whether it's the sports clubs or school activities, and they come right at the bottom of the queue and they don't take care of themselves. And so often it's a matter of recognizing those feelings within yourself, sometimes those emotions of frustration, or it's developing the ability to be able to stop and say, I need something for me, and it's okay for me to stop and rest. I'm frustrated or angry, or I need some time alone to myself. I need some self-care. You can go through a practice just as simple as thinking, if you were to stop and go, what would self-care look like for you right now? Would it be going and having a massage? Would it be relaxing, reading a book on a couch? You can kind of visualize what does self-care mean for you, and identifying what it means. And then in those moments when you feel that you're tired, you're worn out, you're frustrated, you're angry, is being able to ideally go to that place and have what it is that you need, or even just being able to visualize it and take a moment to visualize it and kind of relax a bit. What I realized for myself when I did this was that for me, it was just as simple as being able to go to my bedroom with a hot drink, like a cup of tea, and maybe just read a book or watch a bit of Netflix and just be alone and not have anyone, Mom, can you do this? Mom, where's that? Just give me a break. I'm just frustrated. And it was so simple. And once I worked it out, I was like, oh gosh, all those times I've gone through the day just grumpy and getting grumpier, and all I needed to do was just go and have a time out for me. So I think that would be my first suggestion to you, is to just stop and think, what does self-care look like when you need that break? And also, one other one that can be really handy is kind of, and thinking for you with the friendship connection, is that oftentimes we with different emotions, we might feel like sort of pulling back within ourselves when we feel shame, or something's gone wrong, or we're embarrassed, or we're having a tough time. Maybe we don't feel like we're a good enough mum and we should be doing better. As your natural reaction is trying to sort of go inside yourself and pull back. And at that moment, what you generally need is the exact opposite, and that's to connect with someone. So reaching out to a trusted friend, making a phone call and ringing them up and just saying, oh my, I feel like such a lousy mum today. I forgot that my son had supposed to do this or that or the other. And just having a friend be able to say back to you, I've done the same thing. It doesn't matter. You're a great mum. It's okay. Those kind of connections, and in an instant, all those feelings of guilt and shame and everything just disappear, because you're like, I'm okay. Everybody does this. I don't have to be the perfect mum. So that's a really great tool too, I think, is knowing when to connect, and with someone trusted that is going to respond with empathy and be able to understand where you're at.
This is so good. And so I think the point that you hit on that really resonated with me is it's so hard as women, and I'm sure that there are men that struggle with this too, to self-care well, that there's almost a guilt and a shame that we can't just press through a day and make it to the end of the day and get through the day without sometimes taking those timeouts or tending to what it is that needs to be fixed, or giving ourselves breaks. That there's a lot of guilt at times associated with recognizing that you need a timeout and then actually taking one. I know that for myself, that has been a struggle in the past. Well, I should be doing this, and I should be doing this, and I could be doing this, and I'm behind on this. And so there's all of these shoulds that are so unnecessary. And I had a friend several years back use the saying with me that we've just got to stop shoulding all over ourselves. We put so many expectations on ourselves that we've just got to stop shoulding on ourselves, and we've got to stop shoulding on other people and placing expectations on them, when really we're just responsible for ourselves and making sure that we are healthy, like you said, emotionally, physically, spiritually, that health really is all encompassing. for all of those areas. So I'm excited that we're able to connect. We have so many more conversations that we're about to have. And so I'm gonna wrap up this video really quick by sharing your website again. And that is zesthealthyeating.com. Friends, I would love for you to ring the bell here on YouTube so that you get notified when we have the next video in this series release. And please share this content. Share this content with people that you feel are really going to connect with this, because we all have to eat. So we can all connect and relate on some level. So insert your comments. Jennifer will also be answering those. I'm inviting her to our YouTube channel to be able to engage with you. So if you have questions or comments, she will be there to be present with that. Post your story, your questions, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel. We will catch you guys in the next video.